Oui, maintenant, je pense que c'est bon. Voilà. Thank you very much for staying for the movie and the Q&A. We'll be connected with Los Angeles very soon. So Denise Gamze-Aguven can be with us and we can ask... Ah, there she is. And we will ask having questions. Hello. Wow, it's such a big room where you are now.
Yes.
Okay, so as you know, you'll be connected now with 28 European cinemas, all part of the Europa Cinema Network. And they just saw your movie and they have a lot of questions for you.
Wonderful.
Great.
Very happy to do this.
Okay, so maybe the first question we could ask is that you have both cultural sides from Ankara, where you were born. You still have family there. You were raised partly in France and went back to Ankara. Maybe you can tell us how the movie is related to your personal experience to start.
Well, there was probably the fact of being between two countries allowed me to have some perspective on what it is to be a woman, a girl in Turkey. And it was something which is so much part of the everyday life in Turkey that I probably wouldn't have had a way of saying this is very singular to Turkey if I didn't go back and forth between the countries. So I could zoom in and out of something which is very specific to my experience in Turkey, which was an extreme sexualization of girls and women. And it starts off at a very early age. And there's a moment where I had the sense of being signaled that everything that a woman would do would be considered as sexual. And it's like little events, as the first scene of the film, when the girls trigger the little scandal because they sit on the shoulders of the boys, which was just like one occurrence of the same meaning, like people around you telling you that you're not innocent anymore, which was something that starts off quite early when you're like 12 or 13, when you're very strongly signaled things have changed.
One scene particularly is the beach scenes. The first scene is a scene you said you experienced yourself, actually, I believe.
Yes, well, there was a handful of situations close to that one, which always said the same thing, which said everything you do is considered as potentially not innocent at all. And I had like a few other moments like that, which were like moments of really shock realization. But the beach scene was probably the most cinematographical one, because it was a mystery. Like we had played the exact same game with boys by the seaside. It was completely innocent. And when we came back home, the news of what we had done had come home before us. And at that time, there wasn't even like cell phones. So it was like a huge mystery of like who saw, who said. And it was very arbitrary. And it felt very shaming. And at the same time, we did feel there was something which was unfair and unjust in the accusation. But when you're a child and you're told something with a lot of authority, there's a moment where you don't necessarily take a stance immediately. So it took me like 3 decades to react to this.
Mentioning time, many people on Twitter ask how the film was received in Turkey, but I think it's more a brighter question, which is the movie was released in 2015. It's been screened all over Europe. He had a huge success in France with 500,000 people seeing it. And almost a year and a half after, what can you say about the way people received the movie all over Europe, maybe, with different reactions across Europe, and also in Turkey?
Well, in Turkey, the initial reactions were extremely polarized, and in a sense, it was replaying the conflict inside the film. Some people were reacting to the fact that we were filming girls very freely, that they're not very dressed, and saying that they were doing scandalous things. Some people resonated completely with it, so it was like cold and warm, like very, very different reactions. And then there was a second set of reactions which were more like, it's difficult to be critical in Turkey. Like people consider that immediately as some kind of antagonism. So there's a way of a difficulty of facing our problems in Turkey. Like there's almost something which is very prevalent to always like cover issues which can be problematic, and it makes it very difficult to address issues and problems actually.
But it was screened in cinemas, it was screened in cultural centers. How was it screened in Turkey, for example? How many people could see it?
It was released as a bit as a foreign auteur film, so it wasn't like a huge important release. And it was, the thing is, it was released abroad before it was released in Turkey, so there was like news about the film before it came home. And I think it has been seen quite a lot. It's not like a box office hit in Turkey, but it has been like, I know that it's been seen on the internet, it has been streamed a lot and things like that.
Okay. Lots of questions are coming also to ask about the girls, for example, because one big attachment to the movie is going through the 5 girls we follow through the movie. And people asking, how did you find them? And 1 year after the releasing of the movie, we could also asking, what is going on with them right now? Where are they now? What do they do now? Did they left Turkey? Do they still live there? What happened to them since the release of the movie, and how did you find them in the first place?
So the initial casting was a very long process of really trying to cast a distribution. So it was as if we were casting one character with 5 heads. So we needed to have a very strong harmony between the 5 different actresses. Plus there's a lot of equilibriums which needed to be alive inside the combination of 5. So it was really like seeing different groups for 9 months. And eventually one day we found the 5 girls, which are the casting of the film, and it clicked. It was a magical moment, and they started to move and speak as if they were one body. After that, we had like a long process of working together. We're a bit like a little family now, and what they are doing right now, Gunesh, who plays Lali, is in Los Angeles. She has moved to Los Angeles. Tuba is in Paris, and she has a very intense year, and she's going through her baccalaureate. She's last year of high school. Ilaida and Doa, Ilaida is the eldest of the group, are both playing in a TV series in Turkey. And Elite was the only one who was an actress before Mustang, who plays Ece, the one who kills herself. Played in Little Things, and she has propositions, and she's probably she's the only one who refuses propositions and takes her time and has absolute faith in her future. So yeah, 3 of them are in Turkey, 2 of them are abroad.
Half just like you. We have a question for Portugal, which is on characters, which is which character would you relate the most?
In a way, while I was writing, I was thinking maybe Selma, who's like frightened of everything, and but it's not so true. Like in a way, emotionally, I think I relate to Lale, the youngest one, though I'm not as courageous as she is. Metaphorically, I relate to her. Like I have a sense that her relation to like when she goes to Istanbul and all the efforts that she puts into look close to my relation to cinema, like a way of having converging efforts in the same direction in one single aim. But in spirit, Lale, in real life, like falling on my face and being afraid of everything, maybe Selma, something like that. And the elder sisters is literally like the way I perceived the elder girls of my family. So I'm, close to Lale and Selma.
Someone is asking if you're locked in your room or if you're free to get out.
I'm restrained right now. Like
is it a symbolic for the movie? And it's to match the movie.
No, it's
maybe.
A bit abstract. Like it's a bit like in 2001: Space Odyssey. I'm talking to the camera on my own in a room.
From our perspective, the table looks like the monolith a lot. So it's
yeah. It's 2001.
Questions also about the form of the movie, because when we read about the political Turkey, and when artists try to make history and to tell stories about Turkey, we read this material in newspapers, we see documentaries, but sometimes we forget the importance of fiction, which is very efficient, like your movie show, to teach us about reality. So how did you come to choose this form for this movie? And even more than fiction, because it's not a naturalist movie, it's more like a fairy tale. How did you decide to go that far into the fiction as a form for the movie?
Well, in the beginning, the first time I wrote a treat, it was very close to real life events, and it was disturbing because I was, first of all, it's a gloomy subject. Second of all, I was disclosing secrets which were not only mine. So in a way, I needed a lot of distance. And then it took me, I put that first treatment in a drawer and take it out again, almost a year later. And I needed distance. I needed all the resources of fiction to generate distance. And then I wrote the first draft of Mustang in one breath, literally, not thinking, almost doing percussions on my keyboard. And so it was a very instinctive process. And once it was done and I had a little bit of perspective on it, I was thinking, it still looks like so much as real-life events and real-life facts. Then I was also thinking, I've been going a little far, I pushed the fiction a little far. But then it started to resonate strongly with events that took place in Turkey. And I thought it was more you resonate, you feel the things which are happening inside a society and you interpret it in one way. So Mustang was a bit like the resonance of things which were literally dynamics which were taking place in Turkey. And then while making the film, it was really very clear to me that we were in something, first of all, in terms of drama. By the time the scene of Noor breaking down the chairs and saying, "These chairs touch our assholes, isn't that disgusting?" When she had said that, she was already some kind of a superhero. No girl does that, no girl speaks like that. And in a way, I had to I couldn't hit on the head of a character who had been so much more courageous and heroic than I had ever been. So it was decided from very early on that the girls would win in any possible way. And once that was decided, that in terms of drama, we were in something which was bigger than life, and that the girls were enormous characters. They had a lot of strength. And that the story was told a bit as a fairy tale, it started to taint every single aspect of the story, visually, the aesthetic of the film, the storytelling, the music. It had to have its own world and language. And from then on, it's just you start building your own world, and it's you have layers, literally. You establish the backstory of your characters. Where do they come from? Where are they born? What happened to them? All those things that we know, and which are not told necessarily in the film, but it's there. The world that we're anchoring a film in becomes thicker and thicker and thicker, and gets a life of its own eventually.
When the movie is really centered about the woman, not only just the 5 girls who are in the movie, but also the grandmother who helps her during the football scene, for example. So how the feminism, it's a question that comes back very often in the tweets, how feminist is involved in the movie, because it's about freedom and freedom in Turkey, of course. It's a wider subject, but it's really so close to the subject of feminism. How did you balance between feminism and freedom in general?
Well, no, it's true that the issue of freedom is, or even the choice of society in Turkey right now, is a lot articulated over the place of women. And the choice of societies which are discussed is always articulated around the place of women right now. So it's very central to the debate. And about women, there's something which is surprising, because of all the groups which have been dominated in a way, women are the ones who seem to have integrated the most, almost agree on being the underdog of a society. And women in Turkey, is not only in Turkey, are very active in reproducing patriarchy. And very often it's the woman of a household who will make sure that the rules of a patriarchal society are respected inside the family, who will go and see the younger girls and tell them how to behave and what to do. So it's paradoxically it's something on which we have little perspective and little thinking. So it was important to me to show the grandmother the conflicted situation she was in, and in that sense it was assessing, like, in a way, I'm not sure if everything's fine because I see on the screen.
Yeah, it's okay. We hear you perfectly.
Okay. So it was a way of depicting that. And of course it doesn't start off as a discursive way. Like, I'm not saying, okay, we're doing a feminist film, but ever since you show the point of view of women and have the landscape that they that shapes from the film becomes, of course, feminist.
And did it influence girls in Turkish? Were you contacted by Turkish film director? And there is a wider question on Twitter, which is, what do you think of the young generation in Turkey right now?
What I'm thinking about the young generation in Turkey right now is that they have a lot to handle right now. Turkey is going through very, very dark times right now, and everything I think we're having a hard time, and youth, which is in Turkey right now, has a lot to handle, and we're also in extremely turbulent times. So it's as if we're still inside the story, like we're inside a plane going down, or so it's not as if you can really have a lot of perspective and understand where the country is going, or but there is a Turkish youth which has showed its face in 2013, which has showed its aspirations, and now there is also a climate of very strong fear and sadly a political system which is going further and further away from democracy and the rule of law. So I know that people are intimidated and don't react massively or as openly as they used to, but eventually I hope Turkish youth and people who believe in any kind of rule of law will take their heads out of this time right now.
And maybe this question is also about wider questions, which would be your relation to European Union, because you lived both in Turkey and in France. You also lived abroad in South Africa. The movie Mustang was produced in France, but also in Germany. So while it's clearly also a Turkish movie, so you're really a product. You were born in a year which makes you an Erasmus generation. So how is your relation to European Union right now? What do you benefit from a very powerful system that allows us to screen the movies in this cinema, you to make movies, which is an amazing opportunity. And we see it Mustang. It's incredible that you can make those movies and show them and screen them in Turkey when it would be difficult or impossible. But how do you feel connected to European Union as a filmmaker?
Well, there's two aspects to my relation to the European Union. First of all, it's true that I feel when I am back home in France that I am in a safe haven, and that in relation to what's happening in Turkey, of course, I feel completely in a well-functioning democracy, and I feel safe. And also, European cinema is one of the places where all the ideals of Europe are realized. Like when we do a co-production, when we work with a few countries hand in hand to build something together, it's extremely exciting, and we're very curious of one another, and we collaborate beautifully, and that's like the highest ideals of Europe being realized. And on the other hand, more on the political stance that the European Union takes, I'm extremely disappointed because Turkey has a very important geopolitical position, and nobody reacts as if there was something abnormal going on right now in Turkey. Like, it's not at all the problem of the European Union, as exactly the refugee crisis seems to be not the problem of the European Union either. It's a way of, I have the impression that there is a way of being completely disconnected from the reality of the world today in countries which are even in the US a little bit, or in the European Union as well. Like, there's a way of saying the refugee crisis is not our problem, which is a crazy thing to do. It's as if you said the hurricane is not our problem. You don't choose if you have this problem. It's there, and the bigger you like push it back, and the bigger it will come back. And so it's two different aspects. Like, on one hand, of course, like, I'm a product also of a French culture and a way of thinking, and of like the values that I have, or the way that I think or look at the world, are very shaped by the European culture as well as Turkish. And at the same time, it's a real disappointment, like a real disappointment in any kind of a political dialogue between Turkey and the European Union, which is like the deal on the refugees seems completely obscene to me. The fact that the European Union is completely shutting its eyes on like the literal rouleau compresseur on the press and any opposants in Turkey is just like crazy to me. So it's a dual relation, loving and disappointing.
Okay. So since your answer is a bit sad, I try to enjoy you saying that many people congratulate you for the movie and are amazed that the movie is making such a wider audience in Europe. And we're seeing several tweets saying the movie is used as educational program. I know it is here in Belgium. I know it is in France. Someone says it's also the same in Portugal. So it's on the same side. It's interesting that the movie is used so much for education purpose, and I think education matters a lot to you.
Yes, it's also a way of seeing the world from another angle that I guess we need. The way patriarchal societies are constituted just literally don't take into any account a female perspective, or objectify so much that they don't even guess the female perspective. So it's a way of opening like that little angle of vision and of insight, which of course enriches the dialogue. So of course I'm happy that the film generates this
one thing.
This reflection. Sorry.
One thing people keep asking is the relationship between the movie and the name of the movie. It's someone from Art Kino Metro is asking it, but it's been there several times. Can you explain people the name of the movie, maybe?
Well, I wanted a title which said the temper of these girls, which was untamable, free, and they do have a strength which is very close to that of wild horses. And so Mustang immediately generates like a lot of images, a temper, all those things. And we made the word ours very quickly. After a while, I was thinking, like when I saw a girl walking the street and who looked like a Mustang, I was like, oh, there's a Mustang. Like a girl with a specific attitude. And not so long ago, there was these images of 45,000 wild horses, which were like supposed to be killed in the U.S. and eventually were not. And I thought the girls really looked like them. They're like this pack with their wild hair. Like the metaphor is quite just. And yeah, it was the temper. The metaphor of their spirit.
Another question about Turkey. It's true that for the people seeing the movie, people are very intrigued because it's a part of Turkey we don't see very often, the north of Turkey, which is not very common. It's a population of Turkey we don't see very often, and as you said, the timing and the context with Turkey is critical right now, as it is with several countries in Europe, like UK as well. Do you think you would do the same movie if you were starting now, this movie?
I think I would be less in on issues about how do you say, about mœurs, which is on daily issues of how you conduct your life. Like I guess I wouldn't be focused on intimate issues. It would be necessarily like what would be the most troubling to me would be more the political context. So I guess any film would have had to be, not so much on private stories.
Does it influence your next movie? Because I think you are in Los Angeles right now because you're preparing a new movie, which is also very political because it's about the US riots in 1995, if I'm not mistaken. Does it influence, how does your previous movie and his career influence your next movie? And is it the same theme, how does it influence you?
So the movie I'm working on right now is a film that I had written before Mustang, while I came out of film school, and I worked at that time 5 years and a half on this movie before thinking it's not going to happen, because it was like a bigger movie than Mustang. It was expensive. I had a hard time explaining to people why a French-Turkish girl would want to make a film about Afro-Americans in the 92 riots. So I did a film exactly with girls who looked like me, who spoke like me. It was familiar. Like people could just like be reassured of where they were investing their dimes. And Mustang started off a little bit as an evil master plan to do Kings after, and of course after very quickly I was completely diving in Mustang and not thinking about anything else. But Kings is an issue which is very sensible to me. King's the film we're working on right now, and it has what is similar with Mustang is probably that I'm focused very much, like it takes place during the 92 riots, but it's not like a film about the riots. We're focused on the intimate story of characters, and it has the same tone, probably the same. It's even further down the line of entangling tragedy and humor. The 92 riots were a moment in Los Angeles where there was 5 days without laws, and it was a tragedy. It's not like a revolution where people burn down everything to construct afterwards. It's just like pure destruction. And so the main story is a real tragedy, and at the same time you have all those situations of the most absurd things that happened during like those 5 days, where there was an air of carnival for people as well, where like anybody could settle scores. And so it was like it intertwines again tragedy and humor. So and there's like a lot of bridges between the two films.
One bridge also is all the obstacles you had to surpass to make the movies, because as you said, Kings is a movie you were preparing for a very long time, I think 7 years before you could make it, and you also had many obstacles making Mustang, with the movie almost cancelled few weeks before it started shooting, and other also difficulties. Can you tell us about the difficulties you had making Mustang as well?
Mustang, what happened was that the initial producer left the project 3 weeks before the first shooting day. So it was just like we were left for dead when that happened. It was like no way we were going to get back on our feet. And for a few days, for like 3 days, I was in Istanbul. The entire team had been taken back to France. And plus I had discovered I was pregnant like a week before, so it felt like a huge crisis that we had to solve. And for 3 days I was trying to say, okay, to the casting director, don't speak with the actors, don't tell them that we don't have a producer anymore. And the line producers, I told them the same thing, but they really closed the shop. The actors never knew anything about what was going on. And I was trying to find a new producer to take the project. And Charles Gilibert, a producer from Paris, jumped in and literally saved the project at that time. But we were like a hair away of not existing. And it turned out that the movie, even if we had like a lot of financings, was very strongly underfinanced. And we would have exploded if we had started off with the initial producer. Charles tried to find the rest of the money in a time frame of just a few weeks. So we were back on our feet. So it's true that it was made under like such a crisis, like such a storm, and then it was extremely intense. It was a shooting where we were shooting like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, nights and days, but we had like such a, I don't know, like we had to make it. Like it was no way that movie was going to fall on its face, and plus, I think for me it was the time to really give the fight of my life to have that film made. And Kings too, it's difficult. Like you always have the feeling we're in after what happened on Mustang, I have the impression we're always in the Bermuda Triangle with a film. Like you don't know what's going to happen, but things are working. So I'm very superstitious, extremely cautious. I scan danger all the time, and we move along.
There are many people who thank you to share a different culture and to make them discover different cultures in some other countries. And also, you received the Lux Prize. And at the same time, we know that Turkey has decided to leave Creative Europe. So can you tell us what did you feel about receiving the Lux Prize when you came to the European Parliament to receive it? And what do you feel about being on live in 28 cinemas and being broadcasted like this all over Europe?
Well, it was an absolute honor. Like it means, first of all, that we had the sense of that we were carrying something important for the lives of many girls, and that we had a responsibility towards that. And so it was great that for the first time, when you make a movie for the first time, it's as if you spoke in public for the first time, and that is heard is just so there's no price to that. And then the fact that there's something universal in cinema that we can exchange without not considering the obstacles of language, and that we really can have an emotional exchange, not only just a story, is really makes cinema for me the richest language possible. And to be right now all in the 28 countries of Europe, I really feel I don't know, it's like modernity, being together in these circumstances, just it gives us a feeling of strength, actually.
Great, thank you.
Of being united around that small film as well. It's which like a small first film. It's a feeling of we have a little message which has strength.
Great, but you know the motto of the European Union is united in diversity, and I think that's exactly what we did with you and your movie tonight. So I would like to thank you very much for being here. I would like to thank all the cinemas all across Europe who participated in this 10th anniversary of the Lux Prize. And we all wish you a very good luck for the next movie, and we already thank you very much for Mustang, which is an amazing movie. Thank you very much.
Immensely for your time and for doing this event. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
La présentation de... On va voir tous les cinémas. Oui, voilà, c'est ça. Donc, désolé. Alors, merci beaucoup pour avoir participé au Q&A. C'était un moment très chouette de Los Angeles jusque dans tous les cinémas. Et on va voir maintenant des images de tous les cinémas. So, we're gonna now see screenshots of all the cinema who participated in the 10th anniversary. So, you can see yourself in great company in Firenze, Prague, and other cinemas in. I don't read Cyrillic, okay, sorry, Krakow, Vilnius, okay. And you can see it was very crowded audience, which is a sign of a great success, which is completely deserved for this amazing movie and for, oh, that's you, and for the great initiative from which I thank again the European Parliament and the Europa Cinema Network. Thank you very much and have a good night.